So recently, I had a debate on Twitter. Not really a debate, more like just like a conversation. Actually, it was over Elon Musk. There's it's an interesting concept, one of the billionaires, richest guys in the world, one of the richest in the world. And I say that as, I don't believe he is the richest. I think that the richest, they don't let themselves be known to the public, I think. In any case, he seems to be interested in humanitarian, like honest humanitarian efforts. He seems to be. And I want to have faith in him. I want to believe. Of course, that could be my own deniability. And here's the thing, though. Somebody argued that he was corrupt and that he was evil and just tricking, fooling everybody. Well, I said it a certain way. I said, first I would ask, is it possible for you to have faith in somebody that has an extraordinary amount of responsibility? Like, can you ever believe in or trust someone who has a lot of responsibility on their hands? Or is it always doomed to be, they're lying, or they're evil, right? Because if it's not possible, if we can't believe in somebody, then by default we are being that evil. We are being that projection, and denying it. It's exactly what happened to Jesus. It's what we've done to people all of humanity's history. It's the crab bucket fallacy. And if you've never heard that, that's you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, and when one of them tries to climb out, they all kind of huddle up on it and drag it back down, right? It's like, can somebody even be good around you and be respected? Is a person in a respectable position of responsibility doomed to be crucified, right? It's not to put somebody up in Christ's place or position, but it's to ask if Christ is even possible, if there can be a person who would even aim to be and do good things. Or is it doomed to be forever targeted? If we can't trust somebody, then obviously there's no incentive for somebody to ever be that, right? And yet, on the flip side, of course there's incentive. We want to survive. We want our species to survive. We don't want to change the world that much. We just want to change the bullshit, evil shit that doesn't belong here. Some people say there will always be evil, there will always be, corruption. And sure, okay, but I don't think it's I don't think it's deniable that there's a lot more now than there was 10 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago. Right now, it's like really up in everybody's face and promoted as such, and it could get a lot worse, and evil could get very much worse, and there could be a lot more evil than good. So in that context, I don't think that it's logical to believe that there's any sort of like equality and balance when it comes to good and evil right now. But we should at least strive, right? We should at least aim for that. We should at least have faith, belief, and step up to the position of taking action towards that better world that we, in our beliefs, envision. And I don't think that that has room for many excuses. Of course we give every excuse we can. And that's just it, isn't it? All of these self-defeating fallacies that we have in society. Excuses. You can look at each one of them. And it's hard to undo. Because once an excuse takes hold of society, then then it becomes an egregore. An egregore is a occult term. Not even many occultists know about it, actually. If you know the word meme, well, a meme is not just a picture with text on it. It's not just that, no. It actually had a very much more deeper meaning, and back in the 80s and 90s, there were college courses that you could take on memes. A meme is an idea. It's a social idea, right? A meme has a life, and that's where you get the term egregore from. You see, a meme, an idea that can be created. An idea can have birth. It can birth other ideas. An idea can have a name. It can have a personality. It can evolve, and it can die, and it can go extinct. In all effectiveness, it is a being itself, just existing in a different kind of realm than we might consider real. But why not consider it real? For the sake of attributing it upon our own lives and seeing how it affects us, and responsibly living in harmony with the fact that it does have those aspects and it does have those dynamics, why not consider it an egregore? And that's what I've made this video to talk about. There's a lot of egregores out there. You could just think of it as concepts. And these concepts are, to me, in my belief, inherently anti-Christian. And when I say anti-Christian, I'm not talking about anti the religion. I'm talking about anti the values, the practical values. Because whether it was an actual event when we talk about Jesus Christ and the crucifixion, or whether it was a made-up idea, it's still undeniable that we can all kind of empathize with what it feels like to be punished for something that's completely not even us, to be projected upon and blamed for something, for the emotions that others just didn't want to face within themselves. It's a dynamic, and it happens a lot. And in society, it seems that we put out these ideas as memes, and it's very specific when it comes to something that gets very famous quick or gets out there really fast. It's usually something that undermines a person or mocks somebody. It's very demonic. If you look at the emotions that are associated, it always generally either coddles our egos, or it tickles our egoic, narcissistic inner demons, if you will. And it's destructive. One of them, let's talk about, is the idea of self-love. Now, self-love, when I first, seen the meme going on, I jumped the bandwagon too. And I'm talking about 2016, 2017. And it was a bandwagon. It was a social media, I believe, artificially implemented and artificially impregnated meme and egregore. And I believe it was with direct intent because of the amount of forcing it seemed to be as it rode through society, especially on social media and forums, especially spiritual forums. People put out this idea of self-love, but we need to look to the past a lot more. See, self-love in philosophy was considered for thousands of years to be the root of all sin and the root of all evil. And if we think about it, sure, yeah, what sin could we commit that isn't rooted in self-love? Now, some others, of course, you might brush that off. Like, well, that's not true self-love. Well, that's a good point. That's a good question. We should ask that first. What is the true self-love, because it takes knowing the true self first. Right? Otherwise, we'd be just aggrandizing egotistical values and fakeness and giving ego a reason to undermine others or harm others and not care and walk away and discard without actually thinking about the ramifications of what we've done and what we believe. You know, we tend to have this no, I didn't do it, it's not my fault kind of ideology, and we also have this inherent human fallacy, which it takes a lot to get over. You know, it's not a natural thing to get over, and that is that we tend to think that we are the most, each of us individually, we think that we're the most righteous in our actions. You know, we tend to believe that we did what's right, and anybody would do what we did, and that's not true. That's very provably not true. With wisdom, people act different. We all make mistakes, yes. But there should be that strive to not make mistakes, and specifically when it comes to harming others. Of course, when we look at the self-love movement, or what I call the high vibe tribe, it became a cult in itself. The egregore was put up into the ivory towers of the spiritual community. Very much shunning of anything low vibe, you know, very anti-Christian. You know, Christ went to the people that were suffering the most. You know, he went to and ate with, you know, the people that were battling inner demons, you know, and he told those demons to get out, and that's what they did, you know. And I think that's sometimes I think that's all it takes. How much of us actually really just try to directly confront something in an issue? Sometimes it just takes words. You know, I think a lot of times maybe it just takes words, and we already make up in our heads ideas about what they'll say, so we say, oh, that won't work. Oh, we tried that already. But if you think about it, it'll be something that we never really tried. You know, we didn't really put in the effort, or we didn't really have open, honest communication from the heart. As if sincerity were so impossible. As if sincerity were something other than just being our true selves. You know, I think sincerity goes a long way. Sincerity goes maybe even all the way, you know. And it should be something that we try. A lot of the things in the self-love movement are totally against insincerity. We look at it and they say things like, other people's emotions aren't our responsibility. Okay, you know, ditch people, you know, abandon people that are negative vibe or lower vibe, you know, stuff like that. It's like, all right, you know, just look after your own vibration and try to raise your vibe. It's like really strange, you know. It's very anti-Christian in its ways. Christ said, love thy neighbor as thyself, right? You know, and that's totally opposite. Totally opposite. Christ also talked about the lesson of the Good Samaritan. And I think that that's something that we don't see anymore, any Good Samaritan. It seems that socially it's shunned upon or frowned upon. You know, anytime somebody does something good for another person and then publicly talks about it or publicly shares it, they're considered only having done it for the publicity or only doing it for likes, right? You know, when that's weird. Maybe for other people other than me, but I can't recall one time where I specifically went out to do good just for the likes. If anything, it's something that you feel proud of after and you want to share it with others, right? And that's a natural thing. I think it's an important thing too, because with that comes self-value, self-belief. You only have conviction in what your ideals are when you've had enough understanding your individuality from a place of the heart, you know. I think that that's important, that we recognize that, as David Hume put it, reasoning is and only ought to be slave to passions. It might sound a little weird, but I agree with it, and I think that it's very much true. You see, we only ever do something, we only ever actually do something from the heart. Of course, it gets warped by our mind, but the actual instigator is the heart. Now, you could study all you want, and all that words could pass right through you, but if you don't care, you're not going to remember anything. You could think about how hungry you are and how much you should eat, but if you're not really hungry, if you're not really feeling it, you're not going to get your ass up and go to the kitchen and make something to eat. You're not going to do it. You don't do something just from the thought. You don't do something just from the reasoning of, oh, I should do this, or this is what I should do. No, you have to have it in your heart, and it has to blossom from there. So I think that the understanding of our natures, of ourselves from that emotional standpoint is very important. It's very important. Self-discovery is probably the most important thing right now in humanity, which I find is ironic that all these ideologies are being pushed onto our children. These ideologies which really promote identity crisis.